They don't want what we know out there.
How a person can go from really almost nothing to becoming a millionaire by owning rental properties.
He would always buy these flip houses, and I just remember thinking, this guy is crazy. Why would he buy that house?
In the past decade, there's been a huge surge in the peer-to-peer short-term rental market.
Become an insider. So you have to know the rules before you get the game.
Every second counts. So make every second count.
Welcome to the Real Estate Jam. Whether you're just beginning or the best of the best, we're glad you're here. We will share successes, failures, and strategies for the action-taking real estate investor. And now to your hosts, JD and Melissa.
Hey guys, welcome to the Real Estate Jam podcast. I'm JD with my wonderful co-host.
Me, thank you, Melissa.
And we got a pretty awesome show. I'm actually excited. It's we got one of the guys who leads a group that we're a part of and has helped thousands of investors from many different markets. This is Matt Robinson. He is the leader, founder, not the CEO of the Professional Investors Guild, otherwise known as the PIG. And Matt, we're super stoked to have you on our show today and can't wait for you to drop all these knowledge bombs all over our listeners.
Thanks so much. I'm excited to be here and I appreciate you having me.
Awesome. Well, usually just to start out, if you could, because I know that there's a bunch of people who know who you are, and a lot of our circle is definitely going to know who you are. But for those of our circle that don't know who you are, can you kind of give us a little bit of your background, how you got started, how you started the PIG, that kind of stuff? And then hopefully we'll be able to go into some more detailed real estate investment knowledge after that.
Absolutely. And I'll try to be brief because I know that people watching this are way more interested in themselves than they are about me. But when I got into the business, it was back when my wife got pregnant with our first child. We were newly married and I knew I needed some extra money. I know a lot of people probably relate to that concept and that idea. I was going to be gaining a mouth to feed and losing an income because my wife was going to stay home with our child. So when I got into real estate, it was as a real estate agent, as kind of a side hustle. And at the time, I worked for T-Mobile Wireless and I was only making about $35,000 a year. And I knew that wasn't going to be enough to raise a family. So I started doing real estate. Really, it was supposed to be just something extra I did on the side. And within my first year, I'd basically tripled my income at my other job. And so I told them to, got to make that famous line, take this job and shove it. And I was much nicer than that. But I quit and I went into real estate full time. As far as the investing side of things, the interesting story is I actually went to a real estate investing club, much like the one I run now, PIG. At the time, it was run by a couple of other guys, and it was called Real Estate Navigators. And the reason I went to the club was just to try and get listings. I thought, if these people are rehabbing houses and reselling them, or maybe selling some of the rentals, at some point, I want to be the connection point. I want to be the guy they're going to list with. And I remember I got my very first listing that way, and it was a renovation property. The guy listed it with me. I mean, it was only one of my first couple of meetings. I'm like, man, this networking thing just worked out great. And so he listed the property with me. And I remember we sold it for, I think it was about $105,000. And so at the closing table, I made $2,500. And then I looked over at what he made, and it was about 15 times more than I made. And I realized quickly that I was on the wrong side of that transaction. And so I very quickly started learning everything I could. And not that I stopped being a real estate agent. I did that for kind of both of them at the same time for almost 10 years. But getting into it, I realized I want to be on the side of the $30,000 and $40,000 paycheck, not the $2,000 and $3,000 and $4,000 paycheck. So I just started learning everything I could about it. I started off with rehab, but then started doing some wholesaling, rentals, lease options, short sale. I mean, I've literally done almost every strategy there is, some more than others, but that was kind of a launching point to my career.
Yeah, I feel you on that part. I know we're going to talk a little about wholesaling, but being an agent too, we work really hard to get those commission checks, and they're nothing like our wholesale checks.
Yeah, absolutely.
And usually when we're doing the wholesale kind of thing, we'll get a property under contract, which is probably the hardest part most of the time, finding a good deal. And then we already have this established network of buyers who've been through this before. They know exactly what happens. They understand all the processes in place. So it's just, hey, do you want this? Yes or no? All right, here's the contract. We're good to go. We don't hear from them again until closing day, where they say, hey, thanks a lot. We're good to go. On the retail side, when Melissa is, getting phone calls all night long about, where do I put my earnest money deposit? What are we going to do about all these repairs that need to be made? All of these things. And then just constant work for a paycheck that's not even, a quarter of what it can be for our normal wholesale deals. It's just,
sometimes
crazy.
It's not even minimum wage.
That's true.
Yeah, it doesn't compare. It doesn't compare.
Right.
That's great. Well, you did mention, and like Melissa said, some stuff about wholesaling, and I think that's kind of where we want to take this conversation today. So, can you start to give us all your nuggets of wholesaling and kind of what that looks like, and maybe most importantly, why it works for new investors to start out with that strategy?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, one of the things to get all those nuggets squeezed into a few minutes will be difficult. But as far as why it's great for newer investors, one of the things that we do when somebody signs up to become a member of PIG, the very first thing we put in their hands, and Melissa and JD know this, but one of the very first things we put in their hands is a wholesaling course. And it is because it's the best, most, least risky way really to get into the business. I was fortunate starting out as a realtor because I learned a lot about contracts. I learned a lot about the closing process. I learned a lot just about real estate by being a real estate agent. For people that don't have that experience and just want to dive right into investing, you don't have some of that on the job training. And I think that wholesaling allows you to kind of peer over somebody else's shoulder, kind of learn the process, learn the inspections. They're going to tell you what they're ordering. They're going to tell you when they need to get in the house. Your end buyer is responsible for all the scary stuff and the expenses and the cost and all that kind of stuff. And if they find a cracked foundation, they buy a house with, that has some kind of issue with it, they're the one that deals with it. You as the wholesaler are not taking on that risk. So when you're new, when you don't have a lot of experience, when you don't know what you don't know or what you should be looking out for, there's just no, there's no guarantees in life. There's maybe slight risks with anything, but in regards to wholesaling, there's really no real risk to you, not putting any of your money at risk. The only thing maybe you have at risk is your time. And I just think it's a great way. And there's great, as you said, there's great paychecks. I mean, there have been plenty of our members who have made $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 or more on a single wholesale deal. I'm not saying that's every deal, but there's good money in it. There's very little risk. And I know it sounds like a real estate investing infomercial, some late night Carlton Sheets or Dean Grazioso thing, but the truth is you can wholesale with no money down, no credit. You could have had a bankruptcy yesterday and you can still wholesale. Nobody's checking your W-2s, your tax returns, your credit score. And that, to me, because a lot of people come into this with dinged credit. They're trying to find a side hustle. They're trying to do something. They don't have a lot of money. They don't have necessarily, they come in with some challenges. And wholesaling kind of overcomes all of that and allows them to start making some money while they're learning, the other aspects of the business.
Yeah, I do think that's amazing. And all the infomercial keywords is really, phenomenal. And that's all true. But one of the things that I like, especially the way that you guys do it, getting that wholesale course out first, is wholesaling gives you the acquisitions foundation. And that's something that's present in every other, whether it's land development, storage units, mobile home parks, multifamily, big multifamily, small multifamily, single family home. Every other aspect of real estate investing starts with that acquisitions piece. And you can really learn and get your feet wet through wholesaling, like you said, with all the little risk, no money, all that stuff. But it starts to build your foundation. That's one of the things I like best about the way you guys push out that course first, because they need that information to do it.
We were just talking about this. We just started our newest 6-month mastermind, wholesaling mastermind. And some of the people in there aren't necessarily just solely looking to be wholesalers. And that's the thing I said, that this business, everything you guys do, everything I do, most creative investors, all of it is based on buying off-market properties below market value.
Yeah.
So I don't care if you're looking for a great rental with good cash flow and equity, you're looking for a great rehab that meets the 70% rule, or you're looking for a wholesale. All of them require you to have the abilities and skill set to find those off-market deals that are not on the MLS. And all of that comes down to, and the important part of understanding the wholesaling business is the wholesaler or the person getting the call from the motivated seller controls the inventory. So even if you don't want to wholesale everything, it allows you to cherry pick the best rehabs, cherry pick the best rentals, cherry pick the best deals, because the inventory is flowing through you. And then the stuff you don't want, you can send out to your list and find somebody who'll give you a few thousand that, to keep going on and finding more deals. So it really is a foundational step for everything creative real estate.
Totally agree. And my thing was, when I first found out about wholesaling, I thought it was like really kind of dirty. Right. But then I did my first one, and I got a $3,500 check that I framed. And I was like, this is so fantastic. And it's so easy. But I had to get away from that thought process, because we do provide a service, we're doing the marketing, we're taking the risk. When you do it at our level, you're taking the risk of that nothing might come of you spending $30,000 in marketing. Right. And we're doing all the legwork, bringing people together. That people that don't want to spend that money marketing, that don't want to have a team of people out there working, but just want the off-market deals. And so I think that's hard for some people to understand, because I still think there's a stigmatism with when we tell people that we wholesale, it's like, oh,
yeah, and especially the real estate. Yeah, we've been called vultures and deadbeats by more of Melissa's family than I care to acknowledge. But especially the real estate agents that we work with, your traditional real estate. Any real estate agent that's an investor or has investor clients can kind of understand and see that. But if you run into some regular real estate agents, you're just the worst of the worst. And getting out of that mindset, I think, is super important.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because it is a big hang up for some people. And I've also heard it all, stealing houses from people, taking advantage of people. And there'll be people that might comment on my Facebook posts or things because it really, I don't mean this in a negative way, but it's because they're ignorant. They're ignorant of the facts. And the truth is, the best example I can give to this, and it is very simple and it's very common, and they relate exactly perfectly, is simply people who trade in their car. Virtually, 90% of people, they don't sell private party. And there's a reason they don't sell private party. There's a problem with the car they don't want to have to pay to fix. They don't want to have to deal with people coming by their house, driving it, taking for test drives. They'd rather just give it to the dealer at 30 or 40% off retail, just have it done. It's easy, it's quick, it's clean. They can move on and get their new car. It's the exact same thing with houses. Are the numbers bigger? Of course they are. But there are plenty of people who know, if I'm going to sell it retail, I got to do $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 worth of work. I don't have it. If I'd sell it retail, I got to have people coming in, showing the house. I've got to schedule showings. I got to do this. It could take 3, 4, 5 months if it's not retail ready. There could be a buyer could put it under contract, drag me out 45 days, and then back out because their financing falls apart. And so there are two different groups of sellers. Some who want to sell retail. They don't care how long it takes. They want top dollar no matter what. There's other sellers out there who are more than happy, just like those trading in a car, to take a 30% discount to be done next week, to know you're a cash buyer with very few contingencies who's going to buy it as is and not make them fix a thing. And they are okay with selling it at a discount and letting you take on the risk that's involved in, taking title to a property and dealing with all the issues and the problems. They want to give their problem to somebody else, and they're fine taking a hit in order to do it. And people that don't understand that are just not in the business, and they haven't sat across from a seller at a closing when they hug you almost every time and are so grateful that you bought this property. I cannot think of a time I bought a house from a motivated seller where they were not thrilled that they didn't, they didn't come back later and go, you took advantage of me. They're always happy to be relieved of that problem. So again, somebody speaks negatively of it, they're just ignorant of the facts.
Yeah, totally agree.
What I always tell either our cold callers, our team, or our in-person acquisitions guys is that when somebody starts to talk negatively about that, that's okay. Move on. Don't even need to respond, because that's not the people we're targeting. We're never going to be able to help that person except for maybe Melissa on the retail side. We're not looking for those people that think that we're a problem. We're looking for those people that find us as the only solution left to their problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Great. So if you were going to tell this brand new investor who's listening to the podcast how they can get started cheap, like all the buzzwords, no money down, where are you sending them first? Are there any tools that you want them to get? Are they just using their time? What do you think the best way for a new kid to get, or not even kid, a new wholesaler to get started?
Yeah. Well, some of the new kids are like 60 or 70.
That's
I've got
right.
a number of them in my mastermind who are just trying to make a little money for retirement because they didn't save enough or what have you. So these new kids come in a lot of different forms, but I think that to get started, I mean, obviously you'd want to get some knowledge, some information, some basics as far as, how to do it legally and, contracts and all that kind of stuff. But the actual nuts and bolts, as you guys know, can be learned pretty easily. That part of it is pretty simple. Ultimately the toughest part or the skill set you have to build more than any is the marketing and that side of it as far as finding those motivated seller, those off-market deals. And so what I tell people, again, having been coaching people for 20 years now, there are three main ways, and I share this all the time. People ask me all the time, how do I find deals? How do I find deals? How do I find deals? There are three main ways that I have seen beginners typically be able to find their first or second deal affordably. Okay. Number one is bandit signs. Some people love them, some people hate them, but the truth is, out of all the ways I've heard of people getting their first deal over the last 20 years, a lot of them get them from bandit signs. Yeah. If you don't know what those are, little tiny chloroplast signs, Google it, you'll see it. Some counties will hassle you. Most counties will hassle you. But somebody asked me last night, is it illegal? I said, well, speeding is illegal. Speeding is a violation of a county ordinance. And every single one of you that came to this mastermind sped to get here. It's not a felony. Use bandit signs if you don't mind being hassled by code enforcement. Number two, highly targeted, stacked direct mail. What I mean by that, highly targeted stacked direct mail is like not sending to everybody wants to I'm going to send to absentee. I'm going to send to vacant. I'm going to send to probate. And because they heard about it on Bigger Pockets. Well, somebody who has a great system set up like you guys, who has cold callers, who has follow-up, who has you can do a more kind of mass marketing and know that over time it's going to pay off for you. Somebody who doesn't have a huge budget can't do that. So if you're going to pull probate, people who've inherited houses, great. But that list needs to then be stacked with how many of those people from that inherited it are behind on their taxes, property taxes, and are also have a code enforcement lien, right? That takes a list of thousands and brings it down to a list of a couple hundred, which now you can affordably send direct mail to them without it costing you much. And you know that your return on that investment or your response rate is going to be much higher because you've built in this motivation. And then the third way, which again, it could be direct mail, but you could also call, door knock, et cetera. And another one that's very high on the list is driving for dollars. Oh, yeah. A lot of people, and this is a shameless plug. If you've guys got something, you can use it yourself. But I have my affiliate link is pigdealmachine.com, pigdealmachine.com. That's just for Deal Machine. If you have an affiliate link, you could share it. But through that, and I don't ever share anything or an affiliate link that I don't use myself. I use Deal Machine. I use Pig Prop Stream. I use Pig Yellow Letter. I use all these services myself. And with Deal Machine, it is an easy way to do driving for dollars, but you can do it with just using your county property records, right? And so if they just drive around, find houses that are run down, again, it's because we're targeting and we're not just looking at every house, but we're looking at houses that already are showing signs of distress. And because of that, they're more likely to have an issue. So we're going to get a greater return on the money or the stamps or whatever time we spend in sending them direct mail or knocking on their doors. And so it's driving for dollars, targeted direct mail. Sometimes there's overlap between those two, and bandit signs. Those are super cheap, affordable ways that really are relying more on hustle and grind than on a bunch of money. And that's the way to kind of get that first deal or two, to get you some seed money, to get you 10, 20 grand in your war chest so that you could really go out there and make a bigger splash. It doesn't take a ton of money. And I've seen plenty of people in this business do extremely well on a small budget if they're just willing to give the time to it.
Yeah, I think that's really great. One of the things that I think causes a lot of problems for those new investors is they'll go out and they'll do bandit signs or driving for dollars in mail or handwritten yellow letters, and they'll do it for a week and then wonder why they don't have any deals. Can you talk about maybe timeline expectations and some of the things that you've seen, after training or teaching thousands of investors? I'm sure you got some good ideas on what that kind of looks like.
Absolutely. It's such a good point. And I can tell you that one of the biggest things, and I said this, I did a series on direct mail not too long ago. And a guy came up to me and asked me a couple of questions. He said he spent $900 on an every door direct campaign, which first of all is like one of the worst ways you can market, right? Every door direct through the postal service. Oh, yeah. And he did it one time and spent $900 and didn't get any calls. And so real estate marketing doesn't, investor marketing doesn't work. And so I kind of laid it out for him. It ultimately, so if you talk to, and I don't know your guys' numbers, I don't know if you share those numbers, but if you talk to any higher level, higher end, real estate investor, their cost per deal is somewhere between $2,500 and $4,000. It may be a little bit less for those people that focus on land, and it could be less if you do more targeted marketing, et cetera. But a lot of the bigger players will tell you it costs them about $2,500 to $4,000 cost per deal, an actual deal that they get closed. That was the marketing cost to get that deal. Obviously that's much lower if you're just hustling and grinding and doing, driving for dollars and other things. You can do it a lot less. But I'm saying if you consider that let's say it costs you $4,000 to find a deal that you're going to wholesale and make 10 grand on. That's not that uncommon. Well, if I told you, if you give me 4, I'll give you 10, anybody would do that. Anybody would take that deal over and over again, right? I told you there's a vending machine outside that if you put in 4, it gives you a $10 bill. You'd sit out there all day long, right? Doing it. The difference is, let's say there's a vending machine outside that says, if you put in 4,000, I'll give you 10,000, but you put it in 1,000 at a time. And so you put in 1,000, no 10 comes out. You put in another 1,000, still no 10 comes out. You put in another 1,000 and your wife or your spouse, right? Whoever's doing the investing slaps you upside the head and says, don't you dare waste another $1,000. We don't know if that thing will ever give us 10, right? And so the experienced investors know you just keep putting there, because the thing is you could actually spend 6 or 7 before you get the deal, but then you only spend 1, it's the law of numbers. Then you only spend 1,000 and 2 deals come in. And so over time, your cost per deal is turning out huge profits for you. But if you're a new investor and you spend a few $100s, get nothing, few hundred, get nothing, then you start thinking, you stress out and thinking, I'm just throwing money down a toilet, right? And so that is the biggest challenge, is just understanding if the average cost per deal is $2,000 or ish dollars, and you're only sending, $300, $400, $500 worth of direct mail, it may take you 4 or 5 months before you actually get a deal. It could take 6. You got it. So it's all going to relate to, amount of money and direct mail or something that you send, or the amount of time you spend doing driving for dollars. But it's not an overnight process, and it does take time. But it pays out. It pays off big time. But it's the newer investor that hasn't seen it yet. And that's why I tell people that first deal is so important, because it makes a believer out of them. It validates the money they've spent. It validates the decisions or the money they've spent on education. It really, and that's why I celebrate people's first deal more than anything else, because I know that's going to be a huge launching pad, because until then they really don't believe everything we've told them. And it just takes getting to it, before they can really get excited and go, okay, I'm not spending money, I'm investing money. And there is a return of, I'll just be consistent and disciplined and not give up before the breakthrough comes.
Yeah, I think that's huge. I know that our response rate on direct mail is somewhere between 0.5 and 0.75%. If it's 0.75%, we're doing backflips through the office, right? Right.
So you did 1,000 pieces and you got 7 or 8 calls. Yeah. Right. I mean, that's very normal. But other people, they'll send 300 or 400 and get one call. And like, it's a flop. No, it wasn't.
That's exactly right. And we even tell our new acquisitions people, like, if you start today and start working all of these leads that we're giving you consistently, and you're making the offers like we tell you and setting the appointments like we tell you, you're still looking at 90 days before your first paycheck. If it takes you 30 days to figure it out and get your process down where you're making good offers, and then you spend another 30 days really, really working it, then you get something under contract. It might take another 30 days to close it. Right there, you're at 90 days. And that's just for people that are working with us. And we already have this system where we're going out and doing that kind of work. For somebody brand new that's just starting, it can easily take 90 days or more, especially if you're only doing it part-time.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And they have to be committed to that process. That's why it's great to be a side hustle. I don't ever encourage anybody to, quit their job to go into this full time. I mean, it'll make you hungry, it'll make you work hard, but ultimately, it's one of those things that does take a little time, but as you know, all that stuff starts to, it's like that snowball effect, like all that stuff starts to build. So once you're in it for 9 months, now you're getting calls off stuff you sent last month, and you're getting calls you sent off 4 months ago, and you're getting calls on stuff you sent 9 months ago. And all that funnel just continues to grow and build and build and build. But that just kind of reminds us how important follow-up is too. When you have a small response rate, if you send out 1,000 letters, you only get 7 or 8 calls, then boy, you better have a system in place to make sure you're following up with those 8, 2, 3, 4 months ago, from now. So if they didn't sell right now, at some point they're probably going to sell. And it's a tragedy when people don't follow up and miss out on all this money they spend on generating these leads. But it takes time. You build the funnel, and then over time it really starts, it starts taking off. But so many, this isn't just teaching real estate. Oftentimes teaching real estate is just teaching entrepreneurship. It's just teaching mindset of sticking with it and not giving up, because, every business I've launched, every business I've done, it took 6 months to a year to kind of even really start seeing any kind of decent money. And then it, really starts to grow. But so many people just give up too soon.
Yeah. And I think, part of the reason that they give up is that they don't necessarily surround themselves with the right type of people, the type of people that are uplifting, encouraging, and have been through the same stuff that they're going through. A lot of times people starting out are still surrounded by their family member, their spouse that doesn't know what's going on with real estate investing. And that's why I think it's so important to find mentorship groups and masterminds to be a part of, because those other people, not only can they help you skip some of those early growing pains, but they also can help you with that mindset piece, which is critical in all entrepreneurship. I guess that's why we like your group so much. I mean, there's so many successful investors in the PIG that we know personally, and there's so many different opportunities and partnerships and JV deals that are going on. Can you talk a little bit, about the PIG and what you guys got going on over there?
Yeah, absolutely. So we started out as a local real estate club and started in Pensacola and expanded into some other markets. But since then, we've really been kind of focusing on, trying to make it as online as possible. So everything we do, all the coaching, all the teaching, even the wholesaling mastermind we just started, we do it all via webinar, similar to what you're doing here. So we do have, we still do have live meetings in Mobile, Destin, and Pensacola, but a lot of our education and stuff has gone online. So, if anybody wants to learn or connect or, be a part of it, they can certainly, find out more about us at pigmembership.com or professionalinvestorsguild.com. But, our group is, it's an opportunity to connect with other investors that are moving and shaking. There's certainly, deals being posted, contractor referrals, networking, private money, all the normal stuff you would see at a local real estate group. We have that. And then we also have kind of an online growing community where people are connecting nationwide as well. And so we're just, we teach every month. There's always a new meeting. There's always a new topic. This last month, we were talking about driving for dollars. And so I got really in depth on that specific topic, but we've covered just about anything from commercial to self-storage to, kind of whatever anybody's interested in. And we try to stay on the cutting edge of what's going on in the market and just keep people informed and help them grow their businesses. That's our number one goal.
It's awesome. Yeah,
that is really great. Matt, we really appreciate you coming on today and sharing some of your knowledge with us. I'm sure the listeners are going to pick up lots of great things from you. And I really hope that everybody gets over there and checks out your group online. And if there's ever anything we can do to help you out over here, Matt, please let us know. We really appreciate your time and your guidance.
Yeah, absolutely. And I thank you guys for what you're doing for the community as well. These podcasts and this kind of stuff, this is how people learn and grow and get their appetite wet to get into a great business that can change their family tree forever. So I appreciate you guys and thanks so much for having me on.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Jam. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. For more information, check out our website, therealestatejam.com. Or find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at The Real Estate Jam. If you have any questions, feel free to drop us an email at therealestatejam@gmail.com. See you next episode.